yourself first. Most men think attraction is about looks or status, but nearly all women are pulled in by something far more subtle and far more powerful. When researchers talk about the traits most women consistently rate as sexually compelling, they're rarely referring to the superficial qualities many men obsess over what emerges instead as a pattern centered on behavioral and psychological cues, signals that tell a woman whether a man is emotionally grounded, socially effective, and biologically confident. These subtle indicators often operate beneath conscious awareness, a posture that communicates self-assurance without arrogance, a communication style that balances clarity with restraint, and a presence that feels steady rather than performative. As such, traits activate deep evolutionary heuristics, making a man appear like someone who can handle stress and lead without dominating and maintain stability in complex situations. One of the most underrated traits women report noticing almost instantly is a man's ability to regulate his emotions under pressure. This isn't about suppressing feelings but managing them with composure. Women often interpret emotional self-regulation as a marker of maturity and psychological safety, which in turn enhances sexual attraction. A man who can stay calm during conflict, think logically in tense situations, and respond rather than react signals high confidence. This trait becomes especially potent in dating context because it suggests underlying resilience and attributes women instinctively linked to both stability and long-term desirability. Authenticity, through a widely used buzzword, plays a more powerful role in sexual attraction than people realize. Women notice micro behaviors that reveal whether a man is performing an identity or genuinely expressing himself. Authenticity doesn't mean oversharing or being unfiltered. Instead, it's conveyed through consistency, congruence between words and actions, and the absence of false personas. When a man is secure enough to show his real preferences, humor, and boundaries without seeking approval, it projects psychological independence. This independence often registers as highly attractive because it signals emotional robustness. A subtle but powerful indicator of sexual appeal is a man's attentional presence, the degree to which he is mentally engaged with the moment. Women report feeling a heightened sense of intimacy when interacting with men who maintain active listening, sustained eye contact, and a focus that isn't fragmented by distractions. This type of persons can raise intention and confidence, two qualities strongly linked to sexual magnetism. It also demonstrates that the man values the interaction enough to give it his full cognitive bandwidth, which women often interpret as both flattering and grounding. Humor function as a complex multimodal signal rather than a simple personality trait. Women aren't merely attracted to funny men, they're drawn to men whose humor demonstrates intelligence, social calibration, and emotional reading skills. Being able to tailor humor to the context, light, sharp, dry, teasing, or witty, reveals adaptability. Moreover, humor lowers psychological resistance and creates micro moments of bonding, amplifying sexual tension. A man who can initiate appreciate laughter without belittling others tends to be perceived as emotionally safe yet stimulating, making his presence much more attractive. Another quality consistently cited is grounded ambition. This differs from empty confidence or vague dreams. Women respond strongly to men who demonstrate clear goals paired with disciplined execution. It's not the ambition itself, but the structure behind it, organization of follow through and consistency that triggers attraction. These behaviors suggest a long-term capability, reliability, and leadership potential. A grounded ambition communicates that a man has direction but isn't ruled by ego, creating an ideal blend of vision and stability. Subtle masculine energy expressed through voice tone, posture, and control. Assertiveness often influences attraction more than appearance. Women may not consciously describe these cues, yet they react strongly to them. A control, a lower vocal resonance, and relaxed shoulders and deliberate movements signal a high testosterone behavior without aggression. This balance between strength and restraint makes a man appear both capable and safe. Women frequently associate this type of masculinity with sexual vitality and confidence. Stay with us, hit subscribe, and let's break down the other traits almost no one talks about. Women consistently report being drawn to men who create emotional contrast. There's involved combining a composed exterior with moments of warmth or vulnerability. The contrast prevents them from appearing emotionally flat while still maintaining strength. When vulnerability is expressed selectively and modulated, it reveals self-awareness and trust, both of which heighten intimacy. At the same time, an underlying frame of confidence ensures the vulnerability doesn't come across as neediness. Leadership, when expressed subtly, ranks a high in attraction but is often misinterpreted. Women aren't typically drawn to dominance for its own sake. They respond to men who demonstrate confidence, initiative, and the ability to guide situations without controlling others. Examples include organizing plans efficiently, offering solutions without imposing them, and taking responsibility when needed. This type of leadership signals cognitive sharpness, reliability, and strength, all traits with strong sexual implication. Resourcefulness plays a larger role in attraction than social media clichés suggest. Women subconsciously evaluate how a man navigates challenges, can be improved, solve problems, adapt quickly. These abilities demonstrate manual agility, which is linked to capability and confidence. And resourcefulness reflects a man's ability to handle unpredictable environments, making him appear reliable and attractive in both short-term and long-term scenarios. Boundaries, when expressed with clarity and respect, are deeply attractive. Many men assume that being agreeable or flexible enhances their appeal, but women often interpret excessive agreeableness as insecurity or fear of conflict. Healthy boundaries show that a man values himself, makes independent decisions, and respects his own time and energy. This signals emotional maturity, an important factor in sexual attraction, since it suggests that the man won't rely on others to regulate his self-worth. women frequently mention that a man's ability to handle social dynamics smoothly evaluates his attractiveness. This includes skills such as reading body language, navigating group conversations, and maintaining rapport without forcing interactions. Social intelligence suggests high adaptability, empathy, and awareness, traits associated with a long-term partnership quality. When a man demonstrates is in diverse social environments, women often view him as more desirable on both psychological and biological levels. A consistency across behavior, communication, and intention is one of the most underrated sexually attractive qualities. Many men underestimate how closely women observe reliability. Erratic behavior creates uncertainty, while consistency communicates emotional stability and integrity. This stability creates the psychological safety women need before sexual attraction can deepen. A man whose patterns remain steady over time becomes increasingly appealing. Women often find men more attractive when they demonstrate cognitive depth. This doesn't require academic achievement, rather, it involves curiosity, analytical thinking, and the ability to discuss ideas with nuance. Intellectual stimulation creates mental intimacy, which enhances sexual attraction. Men who communicate through thoughtful questions, layered insights, and reflective dialogue tend to stand out because they provide a richer conversational experience. Another surprisingly potent trait is a man's ability to maintain independence within a connection. Women prefer men who can balance closeness with autonomy. When a man has his own goals, routines, and identity, he signals strength and self-sufficiency. This independence prevents emotional suffocation and enhances sexual clarity. Women often interpret it as confidence rather than a detachment. Self-respect is one of the strongest predictors of perceived attractiveness. Women instinctively respond to men who demonstrate inner standards for behavior, relationships, and personal growth. Self-respect influences everything. The partners a man chooses, the boundaries he sets, and the way he handles conflict. When these standards are consistent, women interpret the man as secure, selective, and high value. The ability to create emotional comfort without losing masculinity plays a major role in sexual attraction. Women prefer men who provide a sense of calm but still exhibit strength. Examples include steady communication, measured responses, and the ability to make someone feel understood without fixating on approval. This combination creates a unique form of emotional chemistry that deepens attraction across multiple dimensions. Humanity, when paired with confidence, generates strong attraction. Women often cite that they dislike arrogance but appreciate a man who knows his strengths without flaunting them. Humility signals emotional intelligence, whereas competence reflects capability. The combination creates a balanced person that women find deeply appealing because it feels grounded rather than performative. A man's decision-making ability is another trait women find sexually convincing. Quick, clear decisions can be confidence, leadership, and certainty. In decisiveness signals insecurity and reduces attraction. When a man knows how to evaluate information, choose a direction, and commit to it, women register him as a focused and trustworthy. This decisiveness often relates with dominance in a healthy, adaptive form. A strong sense of purpose acts as a core driver of sexual attraction. Women gravitate toward men who demonstrate direction, commitment, and long-term vision. A purpose creates structure and focus, which communicates stability. Additionally, men with purpose tend to have higher self-esteem and discipline traits women associate with long-term viability. An often overlooked trait is a man's ability to maintain mastery without being evasive. Women interpret selective disclosure, sharing thoughtfully rather than impulsively as confidence and mastery creates intrigue which hidens sexual tension. It also signals emotional control and depth, two qualities women tend to associate with masculinity. Women report being highly attracted to men who communicate clearly without over-explaining. This efficiency in communication suggests confidence, intelligence, and certainty. When a man expresses himself concisely, women perceive him as stable and unusual. A clear communication minimizes misunderstandings and reinforces emotional safety. Nonverbal communication, especially micro expressions and movement control and spatial awareness, affects sexual attraction more than many men realize. And women subconsciously evaluate these cues to assess confidence and control gestures, steady eye contact, and relaxed body language. A signal high self-esteem. These signals shape a woman's initial impression faster than verbal communication. A man's relationship with discipline heavily influences his attractiveness. Women often report that disciplined men, those who maintain fitness habits, financial responsibility, or productive routines, appear more sexually compelling. A discipline demonstrates control over impulses, a predictor of stability and maturity. This creates a strong foundation for long-term attraction. Curiosity about the world and the ability to learn continuously are qualities women find deeply appealing. Intellectual flexibility suggests adaptability and a mental strength. It also makes the man's personality more dynamic. Women interpret curiosity as a sign of usefulness, energy, and growth potential. Man's ability to maintain composure during conflict significantly affects sexual attraction. Women observe how a man behaves when under emotional strain. Does he escalate, withdraw, or remain steady? Composure signals emotional intelligence and strength, which enhances a woman's perception of his desirability. It demonstrates that he won't crumble when challenged. Emotional depth, and not to be confused with emotional volatility, is another trait women find compelling. Depth includes reflection, self-awareness, and the ability to navigate complex feelings without losing control. This shows maturity and psychological sophistication. Women interpret emotional depth as a sign that the man can build a meaningful connection beyond the surface. Integrity is a powerful predictor of long-term sexual attraction. Women closely observe a man's consistency with his values, whether he honors promises and how he treats others. Integrity signals reliability and trustworthiness. These qualities help women feel secure, which strengthens attraction on both emotional and physical dimensions. A subtle sense of dominance, defined as assertiveness, confidence, and leadership without aggression, often increases sexual tension. Women report that this form of dominance makes a man feel protected without being controlling. It strikes the ideal balance between strength and respect. Become part of our family by clicking the subscribe button. Self-awareness is a trait that women find surprisingly attractive. Men who understand their motivations, emotional patterns, and behavioral tendencies are better communicators and better partners. This reduces friction and increases relational harmony. Women perceive self-awareness as a sign of maturity and intelligence. Stability, emotional, financial, and lifestyle related is one of the strongest predictors of attraction, women seek men who demonstrate control over their environment and consistent life structure. This stability creates a secure foundation that amplifies a sexual attraction because it reduces uncertainty and anxiety. Playfulness, when balanced with maturity, creates a strong emotional and physical connection. Women are drawn to men who can shift between seriousness and lightness appropriately. This dynamic range makes interactions more engaging. Playfulness also signals confidence because it requires comfort and spontaneity. A man's ability to hold his own opinions without becoming rigid signals strength and independence. Women prefer men who can assert their views respectfully and adjust them. Presented with new information, the story shows confidence, intelligence, and adaptability. It also reinforces sexual polarity because it demonstrates leadership energy. Responsibility remains one of the most consistently attractive qualities. Women evaluate how a man handles obligations, commitments, and expectations. A responsible behavior shows reliability and maturity, both essential for deeper attraction. When a man demonstrates accountability, women perceive him as capable and trustworthy. One of the most powerful and often hidden qualities women find sexually irresistible is inner calm. A man who carry themselves with a quiet confidence, who move deliberately, and who speak thoughtfully project a former strength rooted in self-mastery. Women report that this inner calm creates a magnetic pull, making them feel grounded, composed, and intensely attractive. Women often describe an unexpectedly strong attraction toward men who display a balanced relationship with power. This doesn't refer to authority in a social hierarchy, but to how a man handles personal agency, his ability to influence his environment without coercion. A man who uses influence with restraint, who can negotiate rather than intimidate, and who confidently stands his ground without escalating conflict, communicates a high social competence. This balance between assertiveness and ethical restraint indicates psychological stability and emotional sophistication. Women interpret this as a sign that the man can be protective without being aggressive, decisive without being impulsive, and influential without being manipulative. This nuanced control over personal power tends to be one of the strongest predictors of both admiration and sexual interest because it reflects maturity, intelligence, and interpersonal mastery. Women frequently report a deep attraction to men who exhibit intellectual composure and ability to evaluate ideas without being defensive or emotionally reactive. This type of mental steadiness shows that the man is confident enough in his worldview to engage with different perspectives. Intellectual composure doesn't require encyclopedic knowledge, rather, it demonstrates flexible reasoning, curiosity, and the discipline to separate facts from ego. When a man can discuss complex topics calmly, admit when he's wrong, and update his views based on psychological strengths, women associate this with long-term potential because it indicates rationality, emotional maturity, and adaptability. These traits create a more stimulating dynamic, enhancing both relational depth and physical attraction. Another powerful yet subtle trait women find compelling is a man's ability to create microenvironments of emotional stability. These environments are built through tone, pacing, and emotional cadence. A man brings into conversations men who maintain predictable emotional rhythms, who don't escalate between extremes or rely on emotional theatrics create a grounding effect. Women often describe these men as a safe but innocent and meaning. They combine calmness with presence. This emotional stabilization makes interactions feel less chaotic and more structured, providing a foundation for a deeper intimacy. Because emotional unpredictability is often interpreted as a threat, the opposite, emotional steadiness, creates a sense of safety that amplifies attraction. Women are also drawn to men who display what psychologists call emotional restraint. This refers to the ability to hold back impulsive reactions, whether emotional, verbal, or behavioral. Emotional restraint shows that the man isn't governed by momentary urges but by deliberate decision making. This trait becomes especially attractive in moments of tension or ambiguity, where a less grounded man might react impulsively. Emotional restraint signals a high self-control, patience, and thoughtful judgment. Women often interpret this as long-term viability because it suggests that man can navigate complex situations without creating unnecessary escalation. As a result, his presence feels both stable and commanding, intensifying sexual attraction through perceived confidence and inner discipline. I noted that surfaces consistently as a man's ability to generate emotional clarity. Women report men who speak with a precision, who articulate their intentions, boundaries, and expectations without ambiguity, create a sense of coherence that is deeply attractive. Emotional clarity contrasts with the vague, inconsistent communication patterns that often lead to frustration and insecurity. When a man communicates with directness while maintaining respect, women feel more grounded and connected. This clarity enhances attraction because it reduces cognitive load. The woman doesn't need to interpret or decode inconsistent signals. Instead, the man's communication style establishes trust and emotional alignment. This reinforces both psychological safety and sexual chemistry because it demonstrates confidence, maturity, and leadership. Thank you for watching. See you in new video.